Those of you who are buying or selling property or real estate might want to consider the age of the building or buildings a critical factor in purchasing decisions. I have a plumbing detail to illustrate this point with these buildings. These buildings went up in 1970, 1971, so they meet 1969 or so building codes and regulations. At the time, the architect thought this was a brilliant idea to design the building with minimal roof overhangs, a short little eave to protect the walls, and a flat roof in a climate that isn't substantially any more different. On average, there's 1200 millimeters of rainfall here at sea level in the Pacific Northwest. And they thought this would work. Well, it doesn't. It failed. What failed around the buildings is the perimeter drain, which in 1969 or so, it was made out of baked clay like this. So short sections that do not interlock with each other. They are just put in the ground and they are lined up, hoping that they would stay in place and they wouldn't silt up. Of course they don't stay in place, of course they silt up. When they do so, they could be cleaned to some degree as long as they line up-ish, but of course ground settles. The old clay tile perimeter drain system silts up and they are just uncleanable with augering or jetting and the whole perimeter drain here needed to be replaced. You can see the new clean out points, PVC system, perforated plastic pipe was put in the ground with geotextile or drain cloth and fresh drain rock. There was no drain rock here before. You can see these white clean out points along the building, costing the people here tens of thousands of dollars. Over here, fresh pavement here, everything had to be dug up here. So, of course, these clay tiles deteriorate over time and they age, and that's to be expected, yes. That's fine, that's normal wear and tear on the system. But again, the point here is that in 1969, or 71 or 70, when the buildings were built, it met the code, building codes and plumbing codes of the time. And this was the best they could do at the time. And it lasted this much. So if you're buying this property or moving in, get ready for tens of thousands of dollars of perimeter drain replacement, for example, that reached its useful life or the end of its useful life. So that's one story. Another story here is visible in the parking lot here. You can see this fresh patch of asphalt here where this water main broke right here. It broke because the groundwater, because it's in contact with groundwater, it's in direct contact with soil, and soil shifts as it compacts and the groundwater moves through it. So over time it corroded away, and by now in 2020 it developed, well, it broke in 2019, it developed a crack and started leaking. At this point I will try to include a video here how this looked like when it was bubbling out from the ground. And so this had to be dug up and replaced. Of course the homeowners here could afford the most retarded, most incompetent, idiotic contractor who was the cheapest. And so the guy, although this was bubbling right here, the guy couldn't find the pipe in the ground. That's exactly what the guy claims. So had to be doing a little digging here, and then dug a little bit there, and a little bit there, and then a little bit there, and then a little bit there, and then a little bit there, and then, oh, I found a pipe 3 days later. Well, in the meanwhile, nobody had water, and so that's how the pipe looks like, the broken bit that was replaced. Probably more of it was replaced a little bit, I hope so. But again, the rest of the pipe, however long the section is that's replaced, the rest of the pipe is still copper, still the same age, groundwater, it's still in contact with groundwater, the ground still shifts and settles and whatever over time, and it's not protected by anything. It's in direct contact with dirt, and so all the corrosive action and all the movement of subgrade dirt around it affects it. So potentially there can be a new break there or there or there this week, or 20 minutes from here. We don't know, nobody does. But that's the age of the copper pipe, and that needs to be considered, and the cost of replacing all of this at a moment's notice needs to be factored in purchase decisions. Lastly, I have here a faucet, but the old copper pipes of course continue inside the wall. Now a faucet is not the pipe inside the wall, but the condition of this faucet is representative of how the copper pipes with soldered joints look like inside the units. Of course, the pipes inside the units are again in direct contact with ground and groundwater or dirt, and they go into the unit where water may or may not seep in through the joint where the water line makes it through the walls. I don't know how well those are sealed, so all the units potentially leak or have wet basements, and all of the joints going to hot water tanks, going up and down and everywhere to showers and tubs and faucets, they are all in really bad condition, and they broke as the water main had to be shut off multiple times as the water main here was being replaced. The water pressure fluctuates inside the units, and multiple units have damages inside because the water lines break at various points, unpredictably at random points inside the units. So that's a huge insurance claim and a problem for the homeowners. No, it's not lack of maintenance. There's no maintenance on copper pipe. This is how it was built. This is how long it lasts. This is 2020, and so that's from 1970, I don't know, 50 years. It reached its end of design life. They need to be replaced. So you can either wait until they break and then fix all the damage a leak causes, or do it proactively, replace them now before they break. So that's again thousands of dollars of indoor plumbing replacement, drywalling, repainting, everything to consider when you're making purchase decisions, buying old buildings that meet old codes and have deteriorated, decrepit equipment and components inside and underground around them.